Hello and welcome back to More Lore, No Bore. Here with me is our resident lore expert, Joshua. How you doing, Josh?
Pretty good, I can't complain.
Can't complain. You could though. We all could.
I mean, I can make up some reasons, I guess. Give me a minute.
No, it's good. Good to hear that. As we heard a little bit earlier in the Lore Me or Bore Me segment, you spoke of Twitch, and so we're going to hear a little more about Twitch. And of course, as always, the floor is yours.
So Twitch, I specifically chose this week because usually we go over characters that have tons of lore, and when we do the Lore Me or Bore Me, I'm trying to rush everything in a minute. But Twitch is unique in the sense that he hasn't really been touched in a long time, and he's one of the few champions who, when they did this lore revamp, was he one of, I think, 2 or 3 characters that was not touched at all. So basically, I'm going to start with his color story, and then I will go into more details about those small changes he's gotten over the years. Basically, in the color story, we're introduced to a hive incident report in which a team responds to some criminal activity in a certain sector. It's basically a sinkhole that was being used to produce some kind of baby formula out of human excrement, they explain. They find lots of people dead, and they find 2 survivors. The first, named Ra Kintava, a facility researcher, was brought in for an interview, but their face, the lower half of their face, was completely liquidated by Twitch's chemicals, and so they decide that they're going to try to get a replacement jaw for them. Sadly, this takes too much time, so they move on to their second person named Valerie Olant, who is a sludge analyst. They are screaming about how a giant rat had attacked them, had killed everybody, and of course nobody believes that a giant rat just came out of nowhere. And they're asking, was it like a rat like man? And they're like, no, it was exact quote is, "You're not listening, it's a homicidal psychopathic giant freaking rat in a waistcoat." So like they're going over the notes, and they finally just come to the conclusion that this was just an enormous rat screaming at people, kicking over vats, who was then spitting in all their food. The lab was sealed. They were all trapped in there with Twitch, who was melting people's eyeballs with his acid. And the way they could, one of the victims, the victim who is currently talking, explains that they couldn't see him because of the acid melting their eyeballs, but they could smell him. And apparently the only thing he said inches away from their face was, "Nobody steal Twitch's juice." I love Twitch, I'm sorry. Apparently his smell is so strong that it's like lingering with the person and sends them into like a shock. Like they start freaking out, they go into another like they're twitching, they're screaming, and they haven't stopped. They continue to scream for apparently hours. They then go back to the first person who has written out their testimony, and it gives some small details on Twitch as a person. It just says his name is Twitch. He's male. They don't know his age. He's 4'9". He's less than 99 pounds wet. Distinguishing features is a giant rat, and do not engage.
Okay.
So this is basically all the lore we've had on Twitch. Originally, Twitch was just a rat that lived under Zahn that had been transformed due to the chemicals that Zahn had poured into the sewers. Zahn being what's under Piltover. It's known for its seedier experiments. For example, Oriana, Victor, Blitzcrank, Zack, the Chem Barons, they are in Zahn, so you can imagine what's being poured out by these characters. He is related to Zack in some way, but we haven't really gotten any explanation on that. He's mostly just known for, at this point, kind of going through the sewers and looking for treasures and collecting them. he considers himself royalty. He's building a throne in his kingdom of filth, and trying to plot the downfall of humanity, but he really doesn't have a plan or really anything. Twitch mostly, like, it's just very interesting to see that the whole world of Runeterra changed, but the only thing that changed for Twitch was instead of being a rat that mutated, he was just born a humanoid rat now. His lore over since the beginning of the game really hasn't changed at all. He's one of the few constants in League. It's not even really. I don't want to discredit Twitch because he's not. I don't want to say he's like a minor character because he's very interesting, but there's no real plot with him. He's not involved in the story of Zon. He's not involved in Piltover. He's not like being developed, and it's kind of a shame, in my opinion, because Twitch is this chaotic force.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Yeah, I personally love Twitch. I think he's probably in my top 10 characters, and he doesn't really get much attention. Echo, Mundo, and Victor are the more main characters in Zon. Singed is another, but like we haven't really been able to see what Twitch can do. Like he's clearly not a good guy. He's attacking humans and plotting their downfall. And I
burning their eyes out with acid. I mean, it's
burning, yeah, right, and making gum statues. So I personally really would like to see more from Twitch coming forward, but it doesn't seem that he's the top priority of Riot. He hasn't really fit in any of their stories, and honestly, even the artwork they have for his story is a really outdated version of Zon, and it doesn't even really involve Twitch.
So let's talk about Zon maybe a little bit, and
sure.
So it seems like Zon, if I'm catching this correctly, is maybe the fantasy world equivalent of some place with nuclear fallout. It seems like it's very polluted, and everything that comes out of there has something either robotic or chemical about it. Would that be correct?
Yes. So what happened was Piltover was hoping to make a trade route, kind of similar to the Panama Canal. A horrible incident occurred. I believe it was an earthquake. Janna ended up being a hero in this story. She ended up saving lots of lives, but it basically threw Zon into this lower class, upper class. Piltover is literally built on top of Zon. Like there is a platform, on top of Zon that has Piltover, and the poor district of Piltover is considered Zon's rich class. So there's clearly class issues going on there, but there's lots of chemicals. Oriana, for example, in her story, she goes down to help people, and she ends up breathing in the smog that slowly ends up killing her. And her father's trying to save her, so he slowly replaces the dying body parts with robotics. Victor, another person who went down there and saw the horrors that were happening, was trying to save people by turning them into robots, which is how Blitzcrank was created. And Jace, not understanding, came down and killed a bunch of people because Victor had successfully been turning people into robots where they were still humans, they still could think and talk. And Jace came in and destroyed all of them because he thought Victor was making a robotic army. Urgot, for example, is taking the idea of killing the weak and making the strong in Zon. Warwick was a murderer who was experimented on heavily by Singed and turned into a monster that's murdering people. Mundo has killed Echo at one point. He goes around just butchering people. The only reason Echo is still alive is because as he was decapitated, he was able to pull his Z drive and reverse time. Zon is a terrible place to live. The only two major characters that are super good are Echo and Janna. Janna's revered as a goddess in Zon, and Echo is somebody who strives to make Zon better. Otherwise, Victor could also be argued as a good guy, but it's kind of hard because Jace, while he's, put it bluntly, an asshole, it's he was not aware of what he was doing. Like, this is basically a toxic sludge wasteland where creatures like Twitch, Urgot, Zach also is a good guy, but Twitch, Urgot, Warwick, Singe are able to thrive and survive off these people's suffering, and yeah.
So pretty much everything gooey and poison comes out of Zon, it seems like, besides, well, not everything with poison in the game, but poison in general. It's very poisoned.
Yeah, to put it in a pretty good sense, Noxus, which, is known for they're not exactly the nicest people when somebody lets them down. Swain sent Urgot to a Zon prison, because he wanted to really get rid of Urgot, which should really tell you about how bad Zon must be, where Noxus doesn't... There's nothing in Noxus that's bad enough for Urgot. So he figured Zon would be the worst place to send him.
Is this when Urgot was already as his present self, or was he a person at the time that he went there?
He was a person, and Urgot was used parts in his prison to basically rebuild himself.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, in both iterations,
he did a wonderful job.
Yeah, Urgot has been the head executioner of Noxus multiple times, and one time he was rewarded after his death by being brought back to life, as the original Urgot was brought back to life and made into this kind of like Scion, whereas the new one is Swain did not want Urgot around anymore. Basically sent him to Zon on a fake mission. He was captured, sent to this prison, and now is like the old Noxus. Like, if you're not strong, you do not deserve to live. And he's in his story, he murders children. He literally murders a group of children and leaves one alive to tell them, he's like, you're the strong one, now you work for me.
Cool.
Yeah, Zon sucks.
Yeah, I mean, basically pretty accurate.
Yeah,
sounds like that's a pretty accurate judge.
Jinx and Ziggs are also there, but and they're chaotic neutral. In Ziggs' comic, he's basically abandoned by Heimerdinger, and Jinx takes him in. And Jinx does not believe Ziggs is real, by the way. She thinks he's an imaginary friend. And they ride rockets throughout Zon, blowing stuff up and doing whatever their heart's content, usually ending in the deaths of quite a few people.
Cool. I mean, Jinx is one of my favorite characters, so I'll just say cool.
Yeah, I figured. Jinx's comic was very interesting. Zon overall is a very painful place to live. Very few people, the idea of, Echo's parents work, I think it was 18, 19 hours a day in a factory to try and get Echo up into an academy in Piltover, and he doesn't wish to go, but because he wants to make Zon better and he doesn't want to leave his parents. But he literally, the idea of getting out of Zon is so hard, so unattainable, that once you're there, once you're born in Zon, you're in Zon. You don't usually get out of Zon. Echo is a boy genius that is so talented, and his parents are working so hard that he's probably the only character I know of that has a potential chance. Vi also, but she got picked up by the police, and that is why Vi and Echo are the only two that have basically escaped Zon. Or the potential to, I should say, because Echo refuses to.
That is a good chunk of story, a lot of interesting facts. I hope in the future we'll end up hearing more about Zon through other characters, but I don't want to cover too much just in case we do. And I don't know, do you have any sort of closing thoughts on that you want, what's the impactful thing you want people to remember about Twitch?
I would like people to kind of demand more from Riot. We need more Twitch. Twitch is an amazing character that needs to be shown some love. I'm a huge Ionia supporter, but we've been getting so much Ionia lore, we've been getting so much Noxus lore. I think it's time we have to focus on other characters like Twitch, Rek'Sai. The stories can keep developing, but it needs to be evenly spread, and we can't just keep ignoring certain champions like Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch is. I've always loved Twitch's voice lines. If you haven't played Twitch, I'd suggest just playing them. Hop into a normal game because his voice lines will keep you laughing. They're just great. Yeah. They're just so disgusting and in every way, shape, or form. It's like someone talking if they were just trying to gross you out. You know, like that's just what he is. Very much
a comedic character. Yeah, I love.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Joshua. This has been a very enlightening Zon Twitch experience, and look forward to hearing more from you next week.
Thank you for having me again.
Of course. Yeah, it's been awesome. Everyone, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed More Lore, No Bore with myself and Joshua. And we will see you guys next week for episode 23 of the podcast, as well as episode 3 of More Lore, No Bore. Have a great night, and thank you for joining.